Funny, isn't it? How the world only claps when it sees the cameras rolling. But what about the moments no one caught? What about the kindness you gave when there was no spotlight, no stage, no applause? See, you helped someone, and you didn't even know who they really were, did you? No titles, no glam, just a human, broken, quiet, unnoticed. And you showed up. You gave. You reached down without checking the price tag of their pain. That's not weakness. That's power most people are too afraid to touch. You ever notice how people behave when they think no one's watching? That's when the real masks drop. When the teeth unclench and the heart either shows up or doesn't. See, it's easy to be kind when you know there's something in it for you. Status, applause, maybe even a shiny little reward at the end. But the real test, that comes dressed in dust, silence, and no guarantees. No music playing in the background. No dramatic lighting. Just you and the choice to give when everything around you says it doesn't matter. Now let's talk about you. You helped someone. They didn't look like royalty, didn't talk like they had a vault full of gold stashed under their bed. No VIP badge, no dramatic sob story, just a quiet need wrapped in human skin. And what did you do? You didn't ask for credentials. You didn't sniff around for a what's in it for me. You just helped. Like it was normal. Like it was the default. That kind of thing. Rare. So rare. It sends shockwaves up to places you can't even imagine. But here's the kicker. You didn't know what kind of moment you were walking into. You didn't know that this little favor, this quiet generosity was being recorded, not by cameras, but by something far more permanent. You were being tested in a way that no resume or job interview could ever simulate. Because it wasn't about what you had. It was about who you were when there was no benefit for being good. People walk around praying for opportunities, blessings, breakthroughs, and sometimes, just sometimes, those things show up wearing ragged clothes and asking for a ride or a moment or a meal. And the joke, the ones who look the most ordinary often hold the keys to the doors you've been banging on. But most folks miss it. They turn their heads, check their phones, look right through the moment like it's just another pebble on the sidewalk. Not you. No, you looked down, saw the pebble, and picked it up like it was a diamond. Without knowing it was. You passed a test most people don't even realize is being administered. The kind that doesn't come with a Scantron or a score. Just a silent, subtle scene written into your day like background noise. And what you chose in that moment. That wrote a story louder than any speech you'll ever give. Because real power, real character, it's not built in the spotlight. It's built in the dark corners where no one's clapping and no one's counting. And what about that person you helped? Let's just say they weren't exactly who you thought. You assumed they were small, fragile, maybe even a little lost. And maybe they were. But under all that, hidden under the wear and tear of life, there was power, influence, connections, maybe even something supernatural, an assignment sent your way to test the strength of your integrity. And you didn't just pass, you aced it, quietly, casually, as if being a good human wasn't something to be scheduled or promoted, but just done. Because somewhere deep in you, you already knew the real test doesn't need to announce itself to count. Funny thing about wealth, real wealth, it doesn't always roll up in a limousine or wear a watch worth more than your rent. Sometimes it limps. Sometimes it stays quiet. Sometimes it's sitting next to you in the waiting room, dressed like struggle, smelling like bad luck, talking like it's nothing special. And the irony? Most people only give their best when they think they're talking to someone who can open doors, someone who can sign checks, someone who can post their good deed online. But no. You treated someone like they mattered before you ever knew they were carrying gold in their silence. See, the game most people play is built on appearances. Flash, filters, facades. They hand out kindness like coupons, only valid when scanned by power. But every once in a while, someone breaks the cycle. Someone who doesn't need the lights or the stage to be decent. Someone who treats the janitor like the CEO because deep down they know it's all just costumes. All just roles in a play none of us wrote. And guess what? That's you. You didn't need the label to show respect. You didn't sniff around for clues about their value. You just gave. You just helped. Like it was normal. You didn't see a billionaire. You saw a person. A tired one. A hurting one. Maybe they asked for something small, directions, time, a gesture, a lift, but the way you responded, it wasn't small. It was everything. Because in a world obsessed with getting ahead, you stopped. You looked back. You didn't care about the scoreboard. And that moment, that seemingly ordinary, forgettable, blink and you miss it moment, was actually a door. The richest people don't walk around announcing their wealth. They observe. They test. They want to see who still bleeds empathy in a world gone numb. And you were one of the rare ones. You didn't flinch. You didn't filter your kindness through gain. That kind of decision echoes, not just in the heart of the person you helped, but in the places watching from above. You were watched. Not by security cameras or gossipers, by something else, something bigger. And the report filed. Let's just say it's glowing. What's funny is you probably didn't even remember the moment. You probably moved on, just like that. Another regular day. Another human interaction. But for them, it was a turning point. A scene they replayed over and over. Not because you gave money or changed their life in some dramatic, scripted way, but because, for a second, the world made sense. For a second, someone acted like people are supposed to act, kind, uncalculated, real. Now they know who you are, not just the name or the face. They know the core, the fiber. And that knowledge, that's not wasted. That opens doors you didn't even know were locked. Because when you touch someone who doesn't need your help but still tests your soul and you pass, that's when things shift. That's when the storyline twists in your favor. Not because you were trying to win, but because you weren't trying at all. You were just being what most people forgot how to be: real, raw, human. It's wild, isn't it? The way the universe hides treasure behind tired eyes. The way help travels like whispers, bouncing through time until it lands right where it needs to. And you, unknowingly, became the whisper someone else was praying for. No fanfare, no alert. Just a heart doing what it was built to do. Even when nobody was clapping. People think loud gets noticed. Big words, big moves, big shows. But real power, it creeps. It slips through the cracks. It walks in wearing slippers, not boots. You helped when no one said you had to. No transaction, no promise, no trophy. Just a moment, and you showed up. Not for profit, not for praise. For a reason you can't even explain. You did something. Untraceable. Something that didn't come with a receipt. And yet, it's the most valuable thing you ever gave. See, we live in a world that screams, "Look at me." But you whispered. You didn't need a stage. You weren't performing. You didn't know the person in front of you was walking around with a vault of influence and a memory like a steel trap. That person they don't forget. Not kindness, not authenticity. You became the glitch in their system. The one who didn't ask who they were, what they owned, or what they could do for you. You just were. And That gets remembered in places you can't imagine. They weren't looking for help. They were looking for truth. And truth doesn't wear a name tag. It doesn't adjust its tone based on net worth. It either shows up or it doesn't. And yours did. Loudly, quietly, bold and soft all at once. And now you're in their mind, not like a post on a feed, but like a fingerprint on a locked door. You did something small that shook something big. You ever think about how the richest people can buy anything but trust? They can hire praise, rent loyalty, lease fame, but trust. Real, raw, unfiltered trust. That's earned. Slowly. Rarely. And without warning, you did just that. You became trustworthy when no one was checking. That's the currency they're desperate to find. That's the language they understand. And you spoke it fluently without even knowing. They weren't testing you, not at first. But life has a funny way of turning the mundane into auditions. You didn't sign up, didn't dress for the role, didn't even know there was a stage. And still you performed. Like it was your truth. Like it was your nature. And maybe it is. Maybe that's why the moment chose you. Maybe that's why you were placed in the path of someone whose shoes didn't match their story. Someone who looked ordinary, but was anything but. Most people step over the quiet ones, skip past the plain faces, ignore the ones who don't like an opportunity. But you noticed, you listened, you responded. And now the story's changing, because someone saw you as more than a passerby, more than a background extra in their glamorous life. You became a plot twist, the moment they'll reference when everything turns. The beauty in all this. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You weren't dressing your soul up for inspection. You were just being. And somehow that broke through the noise. That pierced the illusion. That shook something awake in a person who probably forgot what decency even looked like. They saw it in you. They felt it. And now they carry it. You think the world runs on logic, but it runs on moments like this. On split seconds where someone proves there's still good out there. Still real. Still unbought. And that's what you gave. Not just to them, but to the whole system. A glitch. A pulse. A reminder that kindness doesn't retire. That character doesn't need an audience, and that the universe still tracks what can't be posted. It wasn't about the money. It never is. The good ones, they don't walk around announcing their wealth. They walk around hiding it, testing rooms, testing people, not with questions or contracts, but with silence. And you passed, without even realizing you were playing. You helped someone who didn't ask for help with gold dripping from their mouth or a sob story clutched in their chest. No dramatic music, no special effects, just a quiet need, and you answered it. People forget the power of unseen moments. Everyone's waiting for their big break, their viral clip, their billboard spotlight. But the real shift happens in the scenes that never get uploaded. The moments when no one's watching, when the person in need doesn't come dressed like opportunity, but like an afterthought. That's where the gold is. That's where the game flips. And you flipped it without knowing, didn't you? You looked past the surface, ignored the script, and chose the human standing in front of you. And somewhere in the shadows, someone watched. Someone powerful, someone tired, someone looking for something real in a world full of fakes. They didn't need another kiss-up. They didn't need another actor. They needed someone who moves from the gut, who helps not because it's smart, but because it's right. You weren't selling anything. You weren't begging. You were just doing what you do. And that's what caught them off guard. You see, in the circles they run in, loyalty's rented, and smiles are often paid for. People perform love like a business pitch, hoping to get a foot in the door. But when someone shows up with no agenda, when someone gives without Googling first, that sticks. That gets remembered. That's the moment they replay later in some silent room full of noise. You didn't think anything of it. That's the best part. You didn't walk away thinking you changed someone's life. You didn't tally up karma points. You didn't drop it into a humble brag story. You just moved on. Maybe even forgot about it. But they didn't. They couldn't. Because in that moment, when everyone else might have looked past them or looked at them for the wrong reasons, you saw something. Maybe not their wealth, maybe not their power, but you saw them. The raw version, the unfiltered pain behind the polished smile. And the heavens, oh, they keep receipts for that kind of thing. They track what you do when no one else claps. They track what you give when no one else sees the value. That's the twist in this whole story. The thing you thought was small, insignificant, forgettable, that was the audition. That was the test you didn't study for. And somehow you nailed it. They say there are moments that define a lifetime. But sometimes it's the lifetimes that define a moment. You didn't choose that person based on anything that made sense. You moved instinctively, purely, honestly. That's why they remember you. That's why you're circling their mind now. Not because you played a role, but because you didn't. You weren't flashy. You weren't strategic. You were dangerous in the most beautiful way possible, because you were real. And in a world addicted to masks, the unmasked soul is terrifying. It confronts people. It shatters the illusion. It reminds the powerful that there's still something they can't buy, a heart that acts without a price tag. You didn't help for recognition, and that's why it's coming. You didn't ask for favor, and that's why it's falling. That billionaire didn't forget. The universe didn't either. And now you've got their attention whether you want it or not. You ever notice how life's real rewards don't come wrapped in applause or dripping in neon signs? No, the big ones, they sneak in. They crawl up behind you when you're not looking, right after you did something that no one asked you to do, no one clapped for, no one even knew about. You helped someone and then walked off like it was just another Tuesday. And now the room's getting colder, the air's getting thicker because something or someone saw that. And not just someone with reach, someone with pull, someone with the kind of power that doesn't knock, it appears. See, people think blessings always show up looking like angels. Pretty wings, glowing lights, that soft orchestral soundtrack in the background. But real blessings, real ones, they show up disguised. In disguise so good, even you might miss it if you're not paying attention. But you didn't miss it. You caught it. You helped the person you thought was just some random wanderer, some nobody. But here's the kicker. They were far from it. Hidden billionaire. Yep. A walking vault covered in humility, camouflaged in pain. A test in human form. A divine booby trap, just to see if you still had a soul. And you did. Oh, you did. You showed kindness when your